Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna Jai Shri Krishna Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiv Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare. Good to see everybody.
Krishna.
Text 43.
Start for it.
We should start.
Pitasi lokasya characharasya Tvamaishya pujaksha guru garyana Natvatsamo asatapyadika kudonyo Lokatraye apya pratima prabhava. You are the father of the complete cosmic manifestation, of the moving and the non-moving. You are its worshipable chief, the supreme spiritual master. No one is greater than you, nor can anyone be one with you. How then could there be anyone greater than you within the three worlds, O Lord of immeasurable power?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is worshipable as a father is worshipable for his son. He is the spiritual master because he originally gave the Vedic instructions to Brahma. And presently, he is also instructing Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Therefore, he is the original spiritual master, and any bona fide spiritual master at the present moment must be a descendant in the line of disciplic succession stemming from Krishna. Without being a representative of Krishna, one cannot become a teacher or spiritual master of transcendental subject matter. So Rudrani will read now. She's just behind the camera.
The Lord is being paid obeisances in all respects. He is of immeasurable greatness. No one can be greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, because no one is equal to or higher than Krishna within any manifestation, spiritual or material. Everyone is below him. No one can excel him. This is stated in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.8. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate natat samas cha bhyadikas cha drishate. The Supreme Lord Krishna has senses and a body like the ordinary man. But for him, there is no difference between his senses, his body, his mind, and himself. Foolish persons who do not perfectly know him say that Krishna is different from his soul, mind, heart, and everything else. Krishna is absolute. Therefore, his activities and potencies are supreme.
Parag?
It is also stated that although he does not have senses like ours, he can perform all sensory activities. Therefore, his senses are neither imperfect nor limited. No one can be greater than him, no one can be equal to him, and everyone is lower than him. The knowledge, strength, and activities of the Supreme Personality are all transcendental. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Jan karm chame divyam evam yo veti tatvatah tyaktva teham punar janma naiti mam eti sorjuna. Whoever knows Krishna's transcendental body, activities, and perfection after quitting his body returns to him and doesn't come back again to this miserable world.
Bill?
Yeah.
Bill, would you
Bill.
read?
Yes. Therefore, one should know that Krishna's activities are different from others. The best policy is to follow the principles of Krishna that will make one perfect. It is also stated that there is no one who is master of Krishna. Everyone is his servant. The Chaitanya Charitamrita confirms Akali Svara Krishna Parasabha Bharatya. Holy Krishna is God and everyone else is his servant. Everyone is complying with his order. There is no one who can deny his order. Everyone is acting according to his direction, being under his superintendence. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, he is the cause of all causes.
Okay. So this is Arjuna speaking some more prayers here. You are the, and it's very, very emphatic here. You are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation of the moving and the non-moving. I mean, these are very strong. You are its worshipable chief, the supreme spiritual master. No one is equal to you, nor can anyone be one with you. How then could there be anyone greater than you within the three worlds, O Lord of immeasurable power? And then some people will say that we're all God. How is this possible based upon this text?
Well, if there's a fire and a spark comes out of the fire, the spark is still fire.
Right.
It's not the whole fire.
That's right.
But it is fire nonetheless. It is part of, you know, and so there's the Atman in our self-awareness, in our deepest witness of what's going on. In there is part of that infinity. Part of the infinity is still part of the infinity. It doesn't, it's not the infinity, but it's still part of it.
No,
and so
that's a fact. It's for part parcel, but
yeah,
we're not the same.
No, not the same.
The sparks are still separate. Like you go to the bonfire, you see the sparks dancing in the fire, and they're hot. But as long as they stay in the fire dancing, they stay hot.
Okay.
But when they fly out of the fire and land on the beach, and they sit long enough, they go out. So they're dependent on the fire. As long as they stay in the fire, they have the quality of the fire. So we, as the Atma, not the Paramatma, we, as long as we stay in the fire of associating with the spiritual energy of the Supreme Lord, we stay like the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, what happens is we go out. We become conditioned souls in the material world. Because we can become conditioned, that is the proof that we are not the absolute supreme whole, because the supreme whole can't be covered. But we can be covered in illusions, because we are just infinitesimal samples of the Supreme. Krishna says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. In other words, although we are eternal like Krishna, we are eternally separate from Krishna. We're individual souls. But that's a good point, that the sense is that we have the same qualities as Krishna in a minute amount. Does everybody kind of understand that point? I mean, you know, the impersonalists make the point that we're all the same as God, but they miss the fact that an eyedropper full of water isn't the Pacific Ocean, even though both are water.
Well, Sri Ramakrishna once made the analogy of making a salt doll in the shape of a person, and you put the salt doll in the ocean, it dissolves into the ocean, becomes non-different than the ocean.
Well, that still the doll is different from the ocean, though. And so if we do decide we want to enter into a non-differentiated situation with the Lord, we can enter into a non-differentiated situation by entering into the Brahman effulgence. Therefore, the soul can exist there in the Brahman as like a photon exists within the light from the sun. It is separate from the sun, but it is certainly part of the sun in the sense that it's part of the light. So we become absorbed in that energy of the Brahman, but Prabhupada gave the example, rather than be that doll thrown into the ocean and merge, we'd rather be the shark swimming in the ocean, enjoying the complete vastness of the ocean and its all variegatedness, so that we actually have a relationship in that spiritual place, rather than just be merged. It's sort of like spiritual suicide in a way. You lose your personality.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a personality here, but we have a personality in the spiritual world too. Eternal. We can deny that personality, and we can have an existence in eternity as a a photon of light in the light. But that's not as desirable as being a person in relation with Krishna in love.
And this connection is only existence. There is no absolute knowledge, and there is no absolute bliss as a photon, but merging into the existence of the energy. We lose our individuality, as Rishta was saying, and we just exist. That's all there is, existence.
It's better than
But
suffering.
we are Sat, Chit, and Ananda. We're not just Sat. We're also Chit, knowledge, and Ananda, bliss. And our knowledge, real true knowledge, is to know who is the Supreme, who are we, and what is our relationship, and live in that environment where we can have these very wonderful experiences of a loving relationship with the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, and this doesn't change the fact that ocean already exists. So even if somebody merges, if water merges, the ocean is still there. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the real point is that we have a choice, and what's being offered to us is by the great acharyas like Srila Prabhupada is the opportunity to have more than just simply cessation of material suffering and understanding of our eternal nature, but we have a chance to enter into a relationship with God transcendental to this world. It's eternity, it's knowledge, it's bliss. And it's just like a better understand. It's more complete.
Without obliterating our personality.
Yeah. Otherwise it's natural that we're suffering in this world, and we think, we want to end the suffering. But let's have Prabhupada gave an example that if a boy, a couple examples he gave. If we're one example is if we're very, very disturbed and we're in a place that's noisy and crazy and we can't stand it, so we go into a quiet room, shut the door. But if someone locks the door and says, "Okay, that's it," after a little while in that quiet room, we're going to say, "Hey, maybe I can come out again. I don't want to just be stuck here." So we really want freedom from this material contaminated life, but the real freedom is in a positive spiritual life with Krishna. That's better than being in the Brahman, which is only a partial realization. But it's a great point that Bill brings up, because this is the forever discussion, that people have. Spiritual life, spiritual existence has to be opposite of this, which means it has to be nothing.
There's a certain element here, though, that we're sort of discussing things that if we were vastly advanced in an incredibly, in a totally different plane of existence, if we were near the goal, then there's sort of a fine distinction of, do we merge with the absolute bliss, or do we have a differential, subject-object relationship with God? When right now, everything that we deal with is so elementary and so,
Bill, these are fantastic points. And this is a really important point. I want you to understand this. Why Prabhupada is giving us this highest thing is because it's so true that if someone says to us, you've got some problems. You need to fix your car and you need $500. I'll give it to you. But if someone comes to you and said, as a matter of fact, I'll give you $1 million and you can fix your car, 1,000,000 times now. So better that we take the better realization given to us very mercifully by Prabhupada, even though we may not be that qualified. That's true.
We have to start somewhere. Somewhere. And we have already been hanging around the universes for so many lifetimes. Finally, we're coming to this opportunity, incredible opportunity. So even though we may not be very advanced and very realized, we've already covered a lot of ground. And finally, we're capable of starting to understand a little something about the reality of who we are and who God is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that just one point Prabhuji has highlighted, you are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation. Obviously, this Sunday is Father's Day, and the true meaning of Father's Day is to recognize who our ultimate true Father is. And what an appropriate words to be going over today.
Yes.
In remembrance of the Father's Day. And if we can have that remembrance and remember correctly the Father, then all the worries, everything will be taken care of. Yes. He already has provided so much and will continue to look after as he has been.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Wonderful.
Yes. So you can remember who the Supreme Father is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's another verse that's cited here, which is very important, which is from the 4th chapter, 4:9. And that verse, the actual translation is interesting. And Bill, this is something you may be interested in. The translation is, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not upon leaving the body take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, or Arjuna. So Krishna, he comes in this world and displays pastimes for us to learn about and to relish. And if we actually hear these pastimes from very advanced souls, what happens is that we gain an attraction for Krishna's activities. And in this attraction that we gain, and it also helps when we're chanting the Maha Mantra on a regular basis in japa, like every morning we should try to chant. That this chant, this hearing of Krishna's pastimes from advanced devotees helps us eventually come to understand Krishna's nature in truth. And when one actually understands this in truth, then all the contradictions and all the questions and the doubts and all the cloudiness of how can God do this and how is this that will be at once vanish, and will become completely absorbed in a relationship with Krishna. So this is a very wonderful verse that gives us the opportunity to really understand how, if we hear about Krishna, we'll be able to develop a loving relationship.
The more we hear about Krishna, the more we chant his holy name, the more we read his words, the more attraction, because Krishna means the source of all attractiveness or attraction. The more attracted we are to him, and the more this desire in the heart to find the perfect object of love becomes more and more manifest. So Srila Prabhupada wrote the Krishna book, which is the summary study of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, early on because he wasn't sure he was going to be able to complete the whole translation of the Bhagavatam. And that book is available on site. You have it there on your site, online. That book is available and it's a printed form. And we would like to encourage everybody to read this book, maybe with a family. It's first of all, it's delightful. Secondly, it's very informative. It's totally philosophical. And it awakens in us this desire to get to know Krishna more and more so that we can solidify in the course of time our relationship with him.
Okay. What are you highlighting here, Prabhuji?
It mentions that the impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many, many births.
Mhm.
Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti of the Lord, is only partial. And there is the risk of returning to this material world.
Yes.
But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body and does not run the risk of returning to this material world.
That's a great point, Gajendra. Thank you for highlighting that. Yeah. You know, if we end up in the spirit in the spiritual world, in the vestibule, so to speak, outside, that's in the lobby of the spiritual world, where we're just waiting to get in the Brahma Jyoti, and we don't get an appointment to go see the Lord. We may get tired, to decide to go back home, back to the material world. And that's what happens to many spiritualists. They'll enter into the Brahman, but because they are not totally satisfied there, and the soul by nature wants to have activity. As soon as that bit of desire for activity comes in, and there's no place to rest in this at the lotus feet of the Lord in eternal activity, then one sinks right back into the material world again to continue. So the cycle of birth and death will only be suspended for a period of time, not ended for eternity, unless one can take shelter. Prabhupada again had a great example. He said, when an astronaut goes in outer space, if they cannot find a planet to land on, then they're going to have to come back to where they started. And because he always chuckled at the fact that they would send astronauts into orbit around the planet Earth, and they just go around and around and around and have to come back. He said, well, what's the point? You're just going around and around and around, but you're just coming back. You're not getting shelter anywhere, so you come back again.
So,
I think, yes.
Prabhuji, Shiva here.
Yeah.
I wanted to share a small incident. Like, I have two younger daughters, right? So the youngest one, she was saying that, Daddy, I want a new home. I want my own room. I want my own room. I don't want to I'm big now. I want my own room. So we gave her a room, and now, like at night time, she will just creep in our room and say, Daddy, I was feeling afraid or whatever. I had a nightmare or whatever. And she will just sleep with us in our room. So that's what the realization, I want to have that kind of realization, that kind of consciousness, that Krishna is always there with his open arm to comfort me, help me. And I just need to have that consciousness, that true ego, to consider him that he is the source of all bliss. And in his presence, everything is fine.
Mhm.
So this incident kind of makes me relate, and I say this is very similar relationship between me and Krishna. I want to kind of go in his room and sleep.
You know, what you're saying is very good. And when a little girl or a little boy want to cuddle up with mommy and daddy, it's because they're taking shelter. But when the little girl and little boy get older and become more competent, then they want to do something for mother and dad. And they maybe make breakfast for them or cook for them or buy them gifts and serve them. So ultimately we want to do more than just we want to take shelter of Krishna, but we want to take shelter of Krishna in a mature sort of way, which means ultimately we have a relationship of us giving, not just us taking. Taking is fine. We have to take because Krishna is giving. But Krishna is also saying, I'm giving and you're taking. And then the next thing is we're giving and Krishna's taking. So, and that we see in the relationship and that's the process of bhakti. And we see that in the relationship, the cowherd boys with Krishna and the gopis with Krishna. It's just, that's what's called a natural relationship.
And Krishna always reciprocates.
But that's wonderful point. I think we can go on to the next verse. 44.
Yes.
Thanks for the lively discussion. Everybody's really chiming in here. This is great.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a final point since it's Father's Day. What Parag was mentioning is that so just because somebody becomes father doesn't mean there is no grandfather, right? That he still exists.
Yeah, Krishna is Prapita Baha. he's the grandfather of the grandfather.
तस्मात् प्रणम्य प्रणिधाय कायं प्रसादये त्वमाहं इषमीदयम् पितेव पुत्रस्य सखेव सख्युः प्रियः प्रियायार्षिदेव सोऽधुमा. You are the Supreme Lord to be worshipped by every living being. Thus I fall down to offer you my respectful obeisances and ask your mercy. As a father tolerates the impudence of his son, a friend the impertinence of a friend, or a husband the familiarity of his wife, please tolerate the wrongs I may have done you. Shiva?
Yes, Prabhuji. Krishna's devotees relate to Krishna in various relationships. One might treat Krishna as a son, or might treat Krishna as a husband, as a friend, or as a master. Krishna and Arjuna are related in friendship, as the father tolerates or the husband or master tolerates, so Krishna tolerates. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And so we really see how they're friends in so many ways and how they work together. Just what a wonderful team they were on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And so this is the relationship of the individual soul with Krishna in a loving relationship. I think we can just go on. The next verse.
You want to read, Mataji?
You want to read? Yeah.
Adrishta purvam rishitosme drisva bhayena chapravyathitam manome tad eva me darshaya deva rupam prasiddha devesha jaganivasa. After seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time, my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead, O Lord of Lords, O abode of the universe.
Shiva?
Arjuna is always in confidence with Krishna because he's a very dear friend And as a dear friend is gladdened by his friend's opulence, Arjun is very joyful to see that his friend Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and can show such a wonderful universal form. But at the same time, after seeing that universal form, he is afraid that he has committed so many offenses to Krishna out of his unloyal friendship. Thus, his mind is disturbed out of fear, although he had no reason to fear. Arjun therefore is asking Krishna to show his Narayana form because he can assume any form.
Antonio Prabhu, would you like to read?
Anadi Krishna, are you
Hare
there?
Krishna.
He may be just listening because he's at work.
Right. Okay, Sonali?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening.
You're just okay.
You want to read?
No, I can't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But thank you for offering.
Sonali.
This universal form is material and temporary, as the material world is temporary. But in the Vaikuntha planets, he has his transcendental form with 4 hands as Narayan. There are innumerable planets in the spiritual sky, and in each of them, Krishna is present by his plenary manifestations of different names. Thus, Arjun desired to see one of the forms manifest in the Vaikuntha planets. Of course, in each Vaikuntha planet, the form of Narayan is 4-handed, but the 4 hands hold different arrangements of symbols: the conch shell, the mace, lotus, and disc. According to the different hands, these 4 things are held in the Narayan are variously named. All of these forms are one with Krishna. Therefore, Arjun requests to see his 4-handed feature.
Any questions or comments about this verse?
This is a little on the literal side in terms of this symbolism involved. It's kind of like going to the Sistine Chapel and seeing God, or an old man with a beard. I mean, I appreciate that, but an old man with a beard sitting on a chair, and with all the things, and all the bells and whistles. It's it's one of the problems I have with going to a Christian church is this idea of there's God, there's Jesus on his right hand, and so forth, and there's this sort of literal taking it, this symbolic artistic depiction of God is the real thing, and it's a little, it's like if I had 4 hands, I mean, I'd want to do things with them.
Well, he actually does do things with them. It's not that he just stands there, sits there, and holds those all the time. But the fact is that when we have these different forms that have at least for us to understand the different varieties of his manifestations, it's depicted this way, and it's not like we should think that we just have Narayan sitting there in his one particular form and he never moves. He does move. He has activities, but it's really important, I think. And you bring this up. Some people think that because Narayan has 4 arms, he's got to be God, the original God, and that Krishna, who has 2 arms and appears to be like a normal person in many ways, like a little boy or a teenager with girlfriends, or a warrior on a battlefield. Well, he's less than Narayan, who's got 4 arms and is obviously like, that's what God should be. He should be something grand. So what is it that makes Krishna supreme, and Narayan, he's also supreme, but he's not the topmost manifestation? Who knows? Who would like to venture into this thought?
Because the Narayan is, the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is extension of Lord Shri Krishna.
Well, that's definitely true. Now, when we talk about the Vishnu forms, they're actually in the material world doing stuff. But in the spiritual world, Narayan looks like, I mean, you know, if I were like thinking, like, and Bill's bringing this point up, you know, God is like big and he's powerful and he's different. And I mean, he's got 4 arms. And here's Krishna, he's this little boy running around eating butter. I mean, you know, and Krishna is, we understand Krishna is superior in the sense to Vishnu. That, you know, Govinda Madi Purusham, Tamaham Bhajami, Govinda, he's the first one.
That's why he's God. He doesn't look like God, but he can do godly things. A little boy lifting the Govardhan.
Well, that's a good answer. He's inconceivably powerful, even though he's a little boy, and he does something like lifting Govardhan Hill.
You expect God to do godly things, but you don't expect
a little boy to do godly things. So that's an interesting, that very good point. And in fact, the denizens of Vrindavan, they kind of scratch their head and say, well, how is this possible?
This form of Krishna.
Here's Rudrani speak.
This form of Krishna as a little boy or youth or a prince in Dwarka, he's inviting us to have this relationship with him. Narayan is not saying, come on, let's have a cozy relationship. He's too grand and too magnificent. But Krishna is making himself available because everything that Krishna does in his pastimes is to attract the devotees toward him so that we can have a relationship with him and he can have a relationship with each one of us. He's very, very thirsty for our love, very thirsty. And so Narayan in Vakunta, being this majestic personality, is a complete different plane. It's a complete different presentation.
And it's a fact. What Ronnie was saying is that you can't have a warm and fuzzy relationship with Narayan. And you can have a very, very warm relationship with little Krishna or Krishna, the youth. And it's the relationship with God that determines the level of his supremacy. And to bring this into Christian terms, you know, Bill was talking about in the Sistine Chapel, you get this picture of God with a beard and Adam's touching his finger, and that's sort of a very distant, powerful God. But the God that little children are interested, or the form of divinity, is baby Jesus laying in the manger, and at Christmas time, and the Holy Family. Right, that's much more personal and much more sweet, and much more the idea that you want to serve that person and have a relationship, approachable. So the approachableness of the form of the Lord determines the level. So Krishna, as a little boy in Vrindavan who lifts Govardhan Hill, that's the supreme personality of Godhead. And from him, he has these big heavy-duty forms that are 4 arms, but that's less desirable for the devotees. That's called the Aishvarya mood, the mood of opulence, and not the mood of sweetness.
Yeah, and even the Virat Swarup, I mean, that's even more powerful than just the 4-handed.
But that's a material form. That's even more disconnected. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in the end, like the Prabhupada used to give the example, and it was Prime Minister Gladstone. People sometimes use different politicians, but it was originally Gladstone. And the French ambassador had a meeting with Prime Minister Gladstone, and he went to the office, and the secretary said, well, you know, the Prime Minister is really busy, so you're just gonna have to wait. And he waits, and he waits, and he waits. He's thinking, well, I wonder if he's not seeing me because I'm French. You know, I just doesn't like French people. And he's wondering what's going on here. I bet it's because he thinks I'm French, and and he doesn't like me. But so finally, you know, he just, you know, sneaks in and looks around the corner into Gladstone's office, and he sees Gladstone on his hands and legs with his little grandson on his back, and he's playing a horsey. And Gladstone says, well, you know, I have better things to do and see you, because this is my grandson. And you're just business. It's just business. You know, we're going to talk about, you know, some treaty about, you know, catching fish or something. And we're not really, that's not very interesting. But my grandson is interesting to me. So that's that personal relationship is intimacy is what really is important. And that's ultimately the real mystery of bhakti, is we have to get by all these kind of inconceivable philosophical facts and come to a loving relationship with that lovable person called Krishna. Anyway, how wonderful it is that we have this opportunity to read these books together, and come to the temple on Sunday if you can for nice kirtan and 4 o'clock, see the deities. Just nice. Thanks so much for everybody's association. It's really wonderful. So I guess it's time for a kirtan, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji. So we are going to see the Rath Yatra, which just happened last week in New York.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Because I won't be able to see it, but
You can hear.
I can hear, yeah.
I'm gonna go back on. Haribo. So that's New York, Radhe.
Wow, that was great. Sorry, I had to bug out. My computer gave me the blue screen of death there and had to
Oh,
restart.
okay. Well, we didn't even know, but I'm glad you're back.
Reincarnated.
Usually we have 3 carts in New York, but this year only 1 cart. Well, 1.5, 1 big one and 1 smaller one. But a lot of devotees. So it was nice. It was the first big event. And this weekend they're having a huge kirtan in New Vrindavan. So, and lots of devotees are there. So it's the coming out from the pandemic weekends. Anyway, thanks so much, Gajendra. Thanks to everyone. It's wonderful to see everybody every week and be able to share all these nice comments and study.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Have a good
Krishna.
weekend. Thank you so much. And Sonali and Parag, we'll see you at the temple.
Yes.
The others.
And anybody else wants to come, we'll see you too.
4
But
o'clock.
we'll be there at 4 o'clock for the kirtan. And prasad and class, and it's the whole 9 yards. It's like pre-pandemic days. Bring your mask though.
So we have to have mask inside.
Yes,
Well, yeah,
inside,
for Sunday
yes.
feast, yes,
Yeah.
because it's a big crowd.
Okay, good to
Other
know.
than that, when you everything else is okay.
Okay.
So we'll see you then. Thanks
Yes.
so much for your
Hare-
association.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Bo.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna,
We'll see
Mataji.
you tomorrow, Shiva, if you're on the call from Charlotte.
I'll try.
Yeah. Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.